Hello and welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke every single week through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I'm Daniel, and your other host this week is Macio. Welcome back, Mace.
Pleasure to be back. What up, bro cats? What's good?
If this is your very first episode of the show, the way we format it is we go through this week's news, and then we end it with the more personal side of the show, what Macio and I have been up to since you last heard us. So let's jump right in and explore sector number 575. So we've got a bit of gaming news, good variety this week, as rumors have suggested that a PlayStation 5 console remodel, possibly a PS5 Slim, and a price drop to $399. So speculation points to a PlayStation showcase in August for the announcement, so that's right next month, which aligns with the release of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 in October. So the PS3 Slim and PS4 Slim were released 3 years into each of their cycles, and November would mark 3 years since the PS5's launch. So history kind of shows that it's right around that time for a Slim, but of course COVID has changed things. What's your take on this rumor, and if we're gonna get it this soon?
I think this is pretty much on par with what I think would happen with Sony. If it's cheaper for them to make the console this way and it helps them make a profit off of console sales, then they definitely will do it. And so far, everything is starting to add up when it comes to the news. So late last year, there was a rumor that Sony, they were making the Blu-ray drives external, like as an attachment. And then as time went on during this year, it seemed pretty apparent that that was the case, that they were going to do that. And one of the only ways to make the PS5 slimmer is to take the Blu-ray drive out of it. So once you take the Blu-ray drive out of it, you can make the console even slimmer than it is. And then if people want those Blu-ray drives, then they have to buy it. So I think what they'll do is just sell out the rest of this PS5s of the existing ones. And as soon as they sell out all of those, they're going to put the Slim out, and then they'll just phase out the original PS5, and it'll only be the Slim. And if you want the additional Blu-ray drive, then you'll pay the extra money, and it'll probably be like $80 to $100. So then they make up. Now you're still at the $500 price point if you want the drive, but if you don't, then you get the console for that cheaper price.
When you mention a Blu-ray drive, is it literally, see, I'm still thinking PS3 era of playing Blu-rays, but are you saying that it's a discless version of it, whereas it's a digital-only console for $400?
Basically, it'll be a digital-only console, and that's the only way they can make it that slim. Because if you look at the digital-only PS5 that they have out already, it's much slimmer than the PlayStation 5 with the disc.
Okay.
So basically, they just take that out, make it a little bit slimmer. So now it's a smaller console. And then if you want that Blu-ray drive so you can keep your physical games, quotation marks on physical, because they're barely physical anymore.
Yeah.
Then you'll have that ability. And for everybody else, they'll just be on digital.
So with that coming out in $400, and then you've got the new Xbox Series S, which I'm looking forward to personally, coming out this holiday season, possible deals in combination with the X. I mean, this might make a pretty decent dent into that. It's going to be a holiday season of, I think, one or the other. I don't see people picking up both the Xbox and this rumored new PS5. And wasn't this redesign a part of the documents that came out during the Microsoft FTC hearings and all that?
These rumors were kind of swirling around last year, but it kind of was solidified during the FTC hearing for sure. A couple of things that Sony was trying to do got leaked in that when it comes to hardware. And Phil Spencer even came out today doing some form of interview, and he said Xbox is critical. I believe that was actually, it wasn't an interview, it was during the earnings call. He came out and said selling Xbox consoles is critical, and I'm guessing they think that console sales are going to boom once Starfield drops. Mm-hmm. So if at any point in time in August, if PlayStation announces a price drop, I don't think Microsoft can say, well, the Series X has a Blu-ray drive, so we're keeping it at 500. And they just raised the price overseas for the Xbox Series X. So they're going to have to drop the price. Like, they don't have a choice. They don't have an option. They're already third place. So they have to drop the price. And to be honest, I'm sure some shareholders may or may not vibe with this, but in the grand scheme of things, they need to be cheaper than the PS5 because they're losing. Like, they're losing 2-1. Or Activision being on Game Pass is going to help. So they need to drop that price soon.
I do think that those are the two things that would really help move Xbox consoles for them. Is one, this Activision Blizzard deal needs to go through before October, which everything is pointing to. Yes, that's gonna be fine. It's easier than ever now. Like, now, if there's any doubters out there, it's like you're just holding out for hope. So that is going to go through. And then if Starfield drops, it's a hit. People love it. Well reviewed, because people go by reviews. They go by word of mouth. There are going to be a lot of PS5 owners that will pick up an Xbox. Every time I go through these Facebook groups or on Twitter, there's all these Sony guys whining and crying about how they wish Starfield was on PS5 so bad. And a lot of that, of course, goes with the history of the company and how it was almost on PS5. But the fact that they care so much makes me think that a good chunk of them will pick up an Xbox just to play Starfield. I think if Starfield is a massive success, it will be a console mover.
Absolutely. And the best thing it could be is the console mover. And at worst, it could just sell like 5-10 million on PC and a couple million on Xbox, and that'll be good.
And maybe some Game Pass subscriptions if it ends up on there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's not an end up; it will be on there. But I like the PS5. I like the move. It's an intelligent move by Sony. Just having a slimmer model, that means cheaper on shipping. They can make the box smaller so they can fit more PS5s on a pallet, which makes shipping cheaper. That helps them cut the cost down. It pushes people to have to buy the external Blu-ray drive if they want to play physical games, which most people aren't going to buy that external drive.
Right.
So then that's just going to force everyone to play and buy stuff on PlayStation Network, which then they get the extra 30%, which they don't do if you buy a physical. So it's like, either way, all of this is just a nice little funnel to keep you in the PlayStation ecosystem. So smart move on that.
It is, because I don't like the move. and that's why it's a good move. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, that boy Jim Ryan, he got something up his sleeve.
Sometimes. Let's not give him too much credit. He was a giant baby during the fucking FTC hearings. Yeah, well, we got something that I think that is a bad move from them. I don't think they're that smart all the time, and especially recently with that, their PSVRs 1 and 2, and now they've got, I think, another flop on their hands, as Sony's upcoming handheld device, the Project Q, has already received negative further attention, I should say. So it leaked online what appeared to be a DualSense controller with a grafted-on 8-inch screen. So they drew comparisons to the Nintendo Wii U's gamepad. So the device's odd appearance, and there's supposedly some shortcomings already, such as a short battery life, connectivity issues. It left many people skeptical about the device, especially they get first impressions. That's going to be what they think of. In spite of Sony's plans to release it later this year, there are doubts about its appeal and market viability. They're trying to move into what would be, I guess, sort of the Nintendo's territory in that way with handheld. I don't think the Project Q is going to do well. I don't think the device looks good. And it just looks like something that someone would have designed as a fake, and then they actually made it. Like one of those things from the 2000s that they're like, here's the PS3 handheld. And it's just a controller
when
with
they
a
had
screen on it.
PlayStation controller that looked like the Batman logo.
Yes. Except they're like, that's good. Let's make it. Produce them. Like, that's what the Project Q looks like.
This one's bad, man. It's bad all around. 8-inch screen is insane. Like, insanely too big. It does not need to be that big. 5-6 inches max, but 8 inches to hold that in your hand. That's why the Wii U wasn't good. Like, that whole thing was way too big. So that's already dumb. it has short battery life, but you're not even playing the games natively on the device. You're playing it through the cloud. So why is the battery life so short? If the thing is so big, if it has the dual sense controller basically with the 8-inch screen, they should be able to put a huge battery on this thing that could keep you up for at least 6 to 7 hours playing via cloud. So I don't understand how it even has short battery life. And then connectivity issues, like you put the highest level of Wi-Fi on there. I think we're on Wi-Fi 7 now. You just throw that on there and then you're done. All you need is a 1080p screen. You don't need to do anything higher than 1080p, because anything higher than that would just be a waste of power, a waste of battery life.
Well,
1080p screen, 6 inches, 6 to 7 hours of battery. You're doing everything on the cloud, and that's my main problem with this Project Q shit. Since it's not a Switch, you're playing through the cloud. You're not playing natively. Don't really see what the fuck is the point of this. Like, they don't even have a cloud, all the way cloud version of their PlayStation Plus out yet. So maybe this is for you to gear up into that. But if they're having connectivity issues, then that means the cloud gaming service is going to be trash. Mm. If they have short battery life, it makes you wonder, what the fuck are they doing? And when you loop this back all around, Android tablets as a whole are dog shit compared to like the iPad.
Sure.
And if not enough people buy this tablet, the updates are going to stop coming. They're not going to waste their time having people develop updates and making sure that it gets the next version of Android. So that thing is going to be ancient within like the first 5 months, because when it comes out, it's not going to have the newest version of Android. It's going to have last year's version of Android.
I don't even know who this is for, really, because the serious PlayStation 5 players, I don't see them taking this around playing like, oh, let me continue this game on my Project Q and then be out and about playing it. Like, I really don't see that happening, or even on trips. I still think that the Nintendo Switch is a lot of people's second console, and that's their go-to when they do want to play something on the go. Like, it's just made better. It's a better experience. Nintendo, if they do anything right, it is handhelds. And I really don't see why Sony thought that this would be a good market to try to get into, especially since they've tried to do it several times already. The Vita, and then there was the other one right after that was like, yeah, it's a nice console, but not enough people bought it. So I really don't see why they're going forward with this.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, mostly because with the Vita, the reason why that failed was they dropped support. As soon as they didn't get the sales they were looking for, they dropped support. And that's basically what it looks like they're doing right now with the PSVR. They know that games now take about 2 to 3 years. So if you start making a PSVR game now, like, that shit's not coming out until 2025 at least. So now they're just basically port begging. They're going to all these different vendors that have games on the Oculus, games on the Vive, games on these other VR headsets, or they had games on the original PSVR because these fucking assholes didn't make it backwards compatible. So now they have to go and tell them, hey, go back. We need games. Can you redo this, make the graphics a little bit better and put it on PSVR 2. And in the meantime, the thing is fucking dead. There's nothing coming out for it, so that it makes you not want to buy it now, because now you're playing the chicken and egg game where you're like, well, I don't want to buy it because there's no games out. And then the developers, they're like, no one's buying it, so I don't want to put my game out on it. So it's the same thing with the Project Q. It's going to be that chicken and egg thing, except for the fact that they don't actually have to make games for it, but they have to sit there and update the console or update the handheld, make sure it has the latest versions of Android, is getting all the security updates. If they have connectivity issues and all that, it's going to need firmware updates. It's the newest thing with this. And you got the easiest thing you could do. You could go get a fucking, for probably the same price as this Project Q. We don't know the price yet, but I'm assuming it's going to be at least $250. Mm-hmm. You could just get a Switch. Sure, it won't play Miles Morales Spider-Man, but you could play a ton of games that are amazing when you go.
Yeah, and you'll have the access to a bunch of old Nintendo games as well. I mean, it just has a better library, and I get that PlayStation does some of that with PlayStation Plus, But if you're talking handheld, there's just a lot more to offer on Nintendo's side. Again, especially if you want to play older titles. And if you do want to play older titles, another great option for that goes right back to Xbox, as Antstream Arcade has made its debut on Xbox, bringing the joy of legal streaming access to over 1,400 classic games. So this has a diverse selection of well-known hits and hidden gems for platforms like Amiga. And Scott and I were just talking about the Commodore 64, how it's tough to find those old games for preservation even, where you can play a bunch of them on Antstream for Xbox. It's also got ZX Spectrum, and Xbox users can enjoy these timeless titles right now. This is up and running. So this opens up possibilities for retro gaming and gamers who want to relive this, what would be golden era to them, of video games. It is not included as part of Game Pass from what I saw. It looks like it is a separate service, but it's not overly expensive. And you can also play classic games like Double Dragon and Mortal Kombat 1, all of that available on Antstream.
I like that this is a option, but I feel like the type of person that's looking to play Amiga or Commodore 64, they don't have an Xbox. I don't think. I don't think that doesn't add up. And then if you have a computer, it's just so easy, cheap, and free to just get an emulator and play whatever the fuck you want.
Sure.
So it doesn't really make sense. And I know some people would say, oh, but you're not supporting the developers. Like, anyone who developed half of these games are already dead, or they don't get royalties. This shit isn't like music streaming or like when Friends gets bought and put on a different network and you get some royalties. Maybe the original creator might get a piece, but like all the other motherfuckers that worked on the game ain't getting shit. So the only people that's really profiting off of this are the publishers. So I feel like the average everyday person that would download an emulator, download a ROM, and play whatever game they wanted for free, they're looking at this like, I'm not supporting the developers whether I pay this service or I don't pay the service. So what's the point? Like, I've been playing ROMs and emulators since I was like 9 years old on the computer. Like, it's not that hard to figure out. It's very easy. And it's even easier now. Like, they have whole emulator packages where you download one app and it has like every emulator on it. And now all you got to do is find the game that you want to play. So if you want to be legal, but like in the grand scheme of things, no one's coming to your house to come pick you up.
Well, or if you're not as tech savvy, then this is a good way. So I just looked up, I was curious about the pricing just so I can actually get some numbers in. Antstream is free. It does have ads.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It does have ads in it. And I don't know how they insert those ads, if it's like after a play, like after a level, or let's say you beat up Sub-Zero and then right before the next fighter you get an ad or something, or if at the bottom of the screen or on the sides they have them. I don't know how that works, but it is free. If you want ad free, then it's $8 a month or $40 for the year. So I think that's better because people can just boot it right up. And if they don't mind the ads like me, unless it's really intrusive, then, why not jump in on a little bit of Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, I feel that. That's not bad. If I were to do this, it would be the $40 for a year, but I would just pay for the year and not renew.
Right.
And then if I wanted to play some other stuff, but I'm not a big fan of Amiga, Commodore 64. Like, I'm cool with the arcade games, stuff like Double Dragon and Mortal Kombat, those old arcade games. If it has like fucking NBA Jam, which I know it doesn't because of NBA licensing reasons. But if it had shit like that, I would be cool with it. But like, I could care less. 99% of those Amiga, Commodore games were dog shit. Like, you could say that about, you really could say that about every single console for the most part. Like,
the Wii especially.
The majority of the games, the majority of games were fucking terrible. And we all just remember the consoles for that, like 50 to 100 games that were really good.
Right. If anything, I know I never had any experience with Commodore 64, so it would just be out of morbid curiosity that to be like, oh, let me check out some of these old ass titles and jump in and just try them out. But again, a good option for just checking out those old titles. If there's like kids that want to see what games were like, I don't know if I would be curious living in this era to go back. I don't know if I would care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, not if you. Not once you see the fucking graphics and it's all just up, down, left, and right. No 3D. Man, kids are turning that shit off.
Right.
And some of those early games is like all one color.
Oh yeah, it'd be like a black screen and then like one shade of green. Yep.
Yeah. No way, man. No shot. They don't care.
Well, I'll let you know for sure when
go back to GBA.
Well, one thing is Leo did go back and play like the old Turtles games, the arcade games, but those are pretty. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's an IP. I don't know if he would, if I would have to test it out with him, like really bust out like Pac-Man or something and see what he thought, or maybe when he's older, if he had any interest in some of the old stuff.
But see, that's my thing, and that's what I brought up earlier. Like you said, Pac-Man. Pac-Man is like one of the greatest games of all time, and it was the best game of that generation. So of course, I wouldn't be surprised if like a kid will pick that up and be like, "Oh man, this is fun." Now give him like the average game from that time period. I don't know that he's gonna be like, "Man, this is dope." Probably be like, "What the fuck is this shit? This is terrible." There's a reason why we know Pac-Man and we don't know anything else from back then.
Well, yeah, I mean, Galaga was my thing, but yeah, it's not a lot. You're right. It's not a whole lot.
Yeah, all the stuff we know is all the dope shit. Galaga, Asteroids, like it's shit that's like like that. Asteroids is like a game that you could easily see on someone's like mobile phone game that would keep you addicted for hours at a time.
Yeah. One thing I saw when I was up in Illinois a few years back, there's like a Namco. Namco's still doing arcade cabinets, and they did like giant-sized Pac-Man, giant-sized Galaga, and I'm like, shit, man, this is great. Like, it's just brilliant.
Yeah, they find a way to innovate, like the four-person Pac-Man. That shit is fun as hell.
Yeah, it is. It's good. It's really good. Well, moving on over to media news and streaming in particular. So last year, I thought this was a bad move by Netflix, right? And we'll get to the crackdown, but streaming in general, almost half of American subscribers, so they're talking 46%, feel that streaming services are overpriced and lack sufficient value. And this is all according to a Daily Stoke survey. That's the name of the organization that ran it. So many consumers do support password sharing and believe that crackdowns would only increase platform profits. And despite the dissatisfaction with prices and platform variety, a majority still enjoy the content offered and consider at least one streaming service necessary in today's landscape. And I think that's something that I hear a lot, especially. I see it on Discord all the time, where people are like, oh, another streaming service. Why didn't we're just going back to cable? And I'm still like, this is still a lot cheaper than cable. This is like an a la carte cable. You don't have to subscribe to Max, Disney, Netflix, all that shit. Cable, you had to get the fucking package, and it was over $100, right? But this is like, all right, Max, $174 a year or whatever it is, and Netflix, $12 a month. Like, it's still a lot cheaper than cable. So I don't see the complaining, but it seems like a lot of people do think that there are too many streaming services. And honestly, the dollars do follow that theory, because it seems like streaming services like Paramount Plus, they were saying that they only have about 2 years left in them with the way that their subscriptions are going.
Yeah, there's definitely 100% way too many streaming services. And the ones that are failing understand that. They see it. They know that they're not making money, and they wish that they just stayed on TV. And the problem is that TV is dying as well. Mm-hmm. So they had to do streaming, but the streaming money is not funding shit. These shows cost way too much money, and they're not getting the subscribers because at the end of the day, people don't want to pay for it. So unfortunately, we're probably going to end up seeing a lot of capitulation, or these streaming services like Paramount Plus or Peacock. Like the only thing that's saving these things are live sports. Whatever's live sports they end up buying and getting the rights to, that's the only thing that's saving them. So if they decide not to pay for those rights anymore to stream those things, and whatever entity you're trying to watch, whether it's soccer or football, basketball, and all of those entities decide, well, we're just going to stream on our own and people can just pay us straight up to watch this stuff. All of those streaming services, either they're going to conglomerate or they're just going to sell specific shows to different streaming services, just like they were doing before. And that might be better. I don't know. Some people might want all their NBC shows in one app, but a lot of people don't care and they're just bleeding money. So I'm not surprised. To me, I don't think all streaming services are overpriced. I think the ones that are like Netflix, and the new pricing with HBO is getting up there, but they have the quality. So I don't necessarily think that HBO is overpriced, but within like another year or two, they're going to up the price again. And then it'll probably be overpriced.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. What you were saying is everything, and it's taken longer than I expected because they keep introducing these new services like, okay, now there's this new one here, there's a new one there. But I think that that's what's going to happen is the weaker ones are going to fall and they're going to end up selling all of their library. Even the big ones are doing that now, like Disney and Warner Brothers Discovery. They're selling off some of their library like more often than they were before to each other, to like Netflix, to Amazon. You know, you're seeing Justice League on Netflix now. The Batman Cape Crusader show was going to be on Max and now it's going to be on Amazon. So I don't know if those two big players, I know they're hurting. Like Warner Brothers Discovery and Disney they're not doing well profit-wise. I don't think their streaming services are going anywhere yet, but I think that it will probably end up being like maybe 2 or 3 big ones that everyone kind of keeps and flocks to. Like Netflix, I think, is going to be one of those pillars, but everyone else is going to just feed into those and say, all right, you want The Mandalorian for a year? Okay, pay us this much, and then rights go back to us, and then we can sell it off to whoever the next buyer is.
Yeah, definitely. Like the ones that are kind of floating around, my mind always goes to the ones that are floundering, like Peacock, Paramount Plus. I would say Hulu is probably in that boat. The only thing that saved them was when Disney added Hulu, Disney Plus, and like ESPN Plus all as one. So they probably gained a lot of subscribers there, but I'm pretty sure they were floundering before Disney bought them and got majority sharehold once they got Fox.
Yeah, they were. And now Disney Plus, I know their last earnings call, they lost a shit ton of subscribers. So I know that one's hurting too.
Yeah. So these, especially with pretty much every single streaming service upping the price, Hulu just upped the price. Spotify, even on all the music streaming services, upped their price by like $1 or $2. So pretty much every subscription went up. Game Pass went up. YouTube Premium went up. It's the lay of the land at this point. So eventually people are just going to decide, I don't really need this, or I don't really need that. Or maybe they might, as I keep seeing these now when I go into grocery stores, like damn near every streaming service has like the same cards that you could buy for like Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. Like they have those. And people might just say, oh, I want to watch Hulu for the next 3 months, and just buy one of those, put the code in, and then just instead of having their card on there and continuously getting charged, even though they're not even using it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. And obviously it's better because most people forget, right? And then they're getting Netflix for another month, and they're like, oh, well, I guess I'll just enjoy. And they don't actually go in and cancel and say, okay, once this month is over, it's over. But yeah, the other option, like you were saying, to get the people that never put their card in or that are on the fence of ever even subscribing, like, oh yeah, like you were saying, I want to watch the new Last of Us season. Let me get Max for a month and then put it in, and that's it. That's a good idea. Yeah, I wish they would promote that more. But obviously they want people to put their cards in.
Hell no. Yeah. They want that monthly monthly price coming in. They don't want you to just get it for a month or 2 months and then be like, oh man, I forgot about you. Like, because if you do that and there isn't something that's instant that hits the service and you're in the middle of watching it, then you just forget that you don't even have HBO until you try to log in. You're like, oh man, I don't have HBO. Well, anyway, and then you go watch some other shit.
Yeah, well, that's when what they should do is hit you with the, hey, we hope you enjoyed your month. You want to sign up for a year? Here's a special discount price.
True.
I wish even like does Game Pass do that? Like, let's say a game is like moves off of Game Pass and it's like, oh, here it is discounted on sale, or do they do anything like that?
if you try to get a game, I think it's like you get that 20% that they give Game Pass subscribers. It might be 10%. It's either 10 or 20. I think they do give it like if the game had been on Game Pass at some point, then you still get the 20% off.
Nice.
Or something like that. But yeah, they pretty much let you know when games are coming off the service, especially if you're playing something currently and then you hop on and it's like, oh, it's going to come off in a week. Do you want to buy the game? So they do stuff like that. And if you unsubscribe from Game Pass for a length of time, they start giving you promotions and stuff too.
Okay. All right. That's good. I like that. Well, one of the pillars, as I mentioned, I think is going to be Netflix. And this crackdown on password sharing has led the opposite direction of what I think a lot of us thought on Discord. A net gain of over 5 million subscribers. So that's an 8% growth. So the company expects revenue to accelerate in the second half of 2023 due to paid sharing launch and global expansion. Some have speculated that this bump in subscription numbers are from the Russian shutdowns. Remember when they shut that down, they lost a shit ton of subscribers because of that. Well, now I guess they're gaining. It's like, okay, well, now we're going up from that number. So they're counting that as profits or as a positive. But they're doing it around the same time that they crack down on this password sharing. So what I thought was going to happen is, hey, you're sharing this password, sign up for Netflix. And most people were going to go kind of like you were saying earlier, like, fuck that, I'll just go watch something else. But instead, it seems like a lot of people have gone, all right, let me sign up for this because I want to watch this shit. And it seemed to be working. And that's really surprised me, man. I did not expect the people that were password sharing to pay up for it.
I was riding the fence. I felt like across the pond and in other countries, people would say, fuck that. But I wasn't so sure that Americans, I felt like Americans, we as a nation, we're the type that would be like, oh, this is bullshit, and then still do it anyway.
You got like, a lot of bad PR, yeah.
Yeah, like, oh, this is bullshit. No one's going to do this. Oh, and then they're like, oh, well, they announced it, but I'm still using my best friend's Netflix. Oh man, I'm still using it. It's still working. And then boom, the hammer comes down and it says, yo, $5.99. You can watch what you want to watch. And you're like, damn, I really want to watch Bridgerton or whatever. And like, you really want to watch it right then and there. And then you just put your credit card in. Like, I knew that was going to happen. Like me, I stick to my fucking guns. Like once my buddy's Netflix stopped working for me, I was just like, oh, you don't have Netflix. Like I do not care. You can't strong arm. If that shit doesn't work, it doesn't work. Eventually I will watch something. Something will come out on Netflix that I really do want to watch. And then I'll just get the Netflix for a month because they're still dumb. They still haven't learned that people binge watch shit and they don't want to do the slow at one episode a week for everything. They should switch to that model and they haven't. So now they're going to suffer because there's going to be those stubborn people like me that's just going to buy Netflix for a month, 2-3 months, and then dip. I mean, I guess they still got extra money that they never would have gotten if they put if they didn't take away password sharing. But what this is a problem and why this is a problem, the other streaming services are going to look at this and they're going to say, we let people password share and we could gain millions of subscribers if we stop them from password share. So this is going to go to every single fucking platform. Like Hulu's looking at this. HBO Max is looking at this. Disney Plus is looking at this. And they're going to come out with a new subscription where it's like, oh, family subscription for $15.99. And you can get XYZ, blah, 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 blah. Like they're going to crack down on password sharing across the board. So anyone that's watching this shit, like, I hate the slippery slope fallacy, but that's what it's going to be. Like, this is going to go across the board throughout the entire industry.
It's definitely affected me as well. I know on one of my televisions, the bedroom one, it hasn't yet said, hey, you're not a subscriber, whatever. And it's still working. But on the living room, anytime I tried to watch Netflix for The Witcher, and I'm like, here, let me sit down. Everyone's asleep. And then it said, you don't have Netflix, sign up here. And I'm like, oh, shit. But anytime Leo goes in that same television and chooses his kid account, works just fine. So I don't know. I'm guessing it counts the account and the number of devices that particular account is under, because I have it on my phone and it works on my phone, and then I have it on the bedroom TV and somewhere else. So it's like, I think that's how it works. But yeah, it hasn't gotten me though. I'm like, oh well, fuck it. Like I could watch it on my phone if I really wanted to, but I have enough on my watch list from Hulu that's still password shared on my Macs, and plenty I could watch instead. Now, when that Rebel Moon comes out, if I have no way to see it and I haven't seen it in theater for some reason, I might sign up for a month, but that's the only one that might get me.
Yeah, I'm there. There's a couple of shows that I watched that I can't think of right now. I would have said Peaky Blinders, but that finished up this year. But there's a couple of shows that I watch on Netflix that I'm just like, it can wait. I know my wife, she watches a ton of shit on Netflix. And I was just like, listen, but just watch a little bit less TV, maybe pick up a couple shows on Hulu, or, play some Fortnite or something. I don't know. Like, you don't have to watch TV. Like, just find something else. So let's wait. And then once we get some like 3, 4, maybe 5 shows in of things to watch, then we'll get Netflix for a couple months, watch those, and then we'll be dead with it.
Well, Netflix did not end up showing up at Comic-Con. They were one of many companies that dropped out of it. And in spite of this was all due to the writer's strike, lack of interest in Comic-Con. It looked pretty bad for a little while, but it seems like the San Diego Comic-Con 2023 Talkback panel, it proved skeptics wrong, as attendees were highly satisfied with the event. So hosted by Comic-Con International representatives, the panel received praise and minimal complaints, with many calling it the best Comic-Con yet. Some complaints were directed towards partners and exhibitors, not the organizers themselves. Some of the issues included the film studio A24 bussing in non-Comic-Con attendees to a screening that was meant for attendees, and Amazon not considering ADA needs for an off-site after party. And despite of the absence of Hall H, which is where Marvel, DC, they do their big announcements, or Ballroom 20 due to the strikes, the event did embrace other elements like independent films, comic books, anime, and games. I saw a lot of people that I know personally on Instagram or on Facebook that would put up on Reels their Comic-Con pictures, and there were a shit ton of cosplayers. People were there. It seemed like another packed event, and one of the guys that came back from it talked about how great it was, how they didn't have any of the media guests there again because of the strike, but they were focused a lot on everything else. And I thought that was good for me, because I had been saying for years that it's churned into this media event instead of a comic thing. It's churned into, come see the cast from Riverdale. And I like Riverdale, but it's attracting the fans of Riverdale rather than people that are going to come out and see people like Dustin Nguyen or Tom King or Udon Entertainment. And this year, it seemed like without all those celebrities and without Disney, Warner Brothers Discovery there, that people were able to focus again on what I think Comic-Con and other cons should be, which is that exhibitor hall, panels with comic guests, cosplayers, as this was saying, games, anime. And it seemed like for people like me, and not bloggers or people news people that are there to cover the latest show announced, that it was a hit.
Yeah, and I like this too. Like these conventions, they're supposed to be like, it's supposed to be for the community, but then also some form of advertising. But how it was these past like 10 years, ever since Marvel started going there and announcing showing every single trailer and doing the behind closed doors trailer where, oh no, you guys are getting a sneak peek. Everybody else can't see this. No one films, and they'll catch this in a couple of weeks when we put the trailer out for real. And once it turned into that shit, it's all corporate shit. It's not about the artists. It's not about the writers, because they didn't have huge like panels and make a big deal if somebody who wrote the screenplay for fucking Iron Man was at Comic-Con. They didn't give a fuck. Is fucking Robert Downey Jr. showing up for Comic-Con. Like that's what we want to see. Those are the panels we want to see. We want to make sure we have the entire cast of Thor, the entire Zack Snyder, and the entire cast of the Batman versus Superman doing a panel. Like that's literally the only reason people were showing up at that point. So I like that it turned back into about the artist, about the comics, about the anime, and then also about cosplay. Like it was too shifted on to, are you just trying to show out your cosplay, or are you just trying to see the biggest celebrity?
Yeah.
And now it needs to be a little bit of both. The celebrity should be like 10 or 15%. They should just show up and just randomly be there, and you get lucky that you see somebody, instead of it being like a whole deal where you're the only reason you're even wasting your time, your effort, hundreds of dollars, is because The Rock is going to be there.
Well, and that was one of the things that one of the staples of Comic-Con, that they had been there since the early years of that convention. They were a comic exhibitor, and up till a few years ago, they were like, yeah, now we're breaking even at Comic-Con, and there's no point in showing up. So they just stopped coming to Comic-Con, and they're like, yeah, we saw what happened is everyone was going to Hall H to watch the latest MCU announcement, and then they'd go home. Like none of them would spend money at the hall, at the exhibitor hall. And a majority of con goers were people going to Hall H. So it's like that. This is good. Get rid of the people that are not going to spend money, that are just going to show up for Hall H. And then you're left with the people that are going to be there for all of the exhibitors, for all the shit that they sell, for the cosplays, for the panels. And the exhibitors win, the con goers win. And overall, I think it ends up being more focused Comic-Con.
Yeah, like the Hall H shit really was just, it was good for Marvel. It was good for whoever was showing their trailer in there. And then it was good for Comic-Con as the organization, because they get to sell the tickets and everything. But all the other people that bought booths and shit, they just took a L. They didn't gain, like the whole purpose of you being out there is to earn money if you're an exhibitor, whether it's through future money from people seeing your booth, seeing the advertisements that you're putting out, and then they come back and buy something later, or just actually, oh, I'm here specifically only to make money. That's it. And then I'm out here and the fucking exhibitor hall is empty besides a couple of people running around as Deadpool acting a fucking fool. And then everybody else is in Hall H or at some fucking panel listening to The Rock and fucking Kevin Hart chop it up about Jumanji. Like you're sitting there and you're just hearing all the screams of people getting hyped over some new trailer for the next Eternals movie. And then you're just standing there with your hand in your pockets like, bro, where are my customers?
Yeah, I think this is great. And I hope, and I'm glad that Comic-Con ended up being a success regardless of all these big companies not showing up. I'm sure it did hurt their bottom line as far as them canceling, not coming out. I don't know how that worked out as far as payouts, if they had already reserved some of these things. But I think it sounds like the guests, the people that actually went, were very happy. All the comic industry people that I follow on Instagram, man, they were so fucking happy to go. All of them had that universal message of, it was great to see everyone again. I had a blast. Oh shit, I caught con crud. Thank God it's not COVID. You know, I saw that one.
Oh man. Just getting regular sick at a convention, yes. Man. That's back. Cool.
Yeah, and con crud actually, it felt worse than COVID when I caught it, but
it's bad, man. It's bad. I used to hate walking through when I worked at the convention center. I had to walk back to my car. I'm like, fuck, I gotta walk past all these goddamn people. And I hope I don't get sick.
Yep. Well, one of the things that they did announce at Comic-Con, because it was a good opportunity for comic publishers to announce their projects, they weren't overshadowed with movies and shows. And one of these were the publisher Sumerian Comics, who announced that they plan to release a proper sequel to the horror classic American Psycho. I would consider it more of a dark comedy, but who am I? In the form of a 4-issue comic book series. So the story will offer a new perspective on Patrick Bateman and his killing spree, and it will introduce a modern-day arc following a social media-obsessed millennial's descent into violence. The comic is set to be released on October 11th, 2023. They had done American Psycho 2 in the 2000s, I want to say.
Yeah.
And it was, I never saw it, but I saw like the synopsis. And
it was bad.
Yeah, it sounds terrible. This sounds more like, the good thing is with comics, they can do things that they normally wouldn't. There's less fingers in the pot or whatever when it comes to a comic book, because you're more or less like, yeah, you're at the publisher's mercy, but it's not like a film where you got to get your star in there, make sure they get this much screen time, all that. So for me, as a big fan of American Psycho, yes, of course, I'm nervous about any kind of sequel, especially when it doesn't focus on Patrick Bateman. I mean, the guy's still alive at the end of the film, so why not use him? But maybe he does show up in the comic by the end of issue 4. I don't know. I'm a fan of the series, of the movie, and I will be checking out the comic.
Yeah, this is the story is weird because it's like it's gonna give us a new perspective on Patrick Bateman's killing spree, but then also give us a new character, and then, right? Or is it just
it'll be a female character.
A new character that's gonna go on a killing spree, and that's the part that's kind of off-putting, because we're getting a deeper dive into Patrick Bateman, and then they're just gonna go into a sequel. Like, at that point, you might as well just give us the sequel. Just give us the new person that's gonna go crazy. But have you ever read the American Psycho?
I started reading some of it. It's a lot more twisted than the film.
Exactly. So that's what I'm thinking. Is it going to be closer to the book or closer to the film?
I'm guessing the film, because I was looking at all the covers because they have a bunch of variants, and it's clearly Christian Bale.
Oh, okay. All right. I mean, to me, it would be better to go off the book, but it doesn't seem like they're going to have that much stuff from the movie if they're really focusing on this new person. So it's definitely interesting. I'll keep an eye on it. You tell me how it goes, but I'm not going out to buy it as much as I like American Psycho.
Before we move on to DC's comic announcement, because I remember this was like a debate, and I don't know why, but at least I got the message. Maybe I got a different message from the film, but a lot of people ask, did Bateman kill all those people, or was it all in his head? And that's always what would come up.
Yeah.
And what was your take when you finished the film? If you even, I don't know when the last time you saw it was.
I think the first time I watched it, I didn't think that all of it was all in his head. I thought the last bit of it was all in his head. From the point where he runs out and then he stomps out the fucking dog. Like, from that point on, I was like, okay, it was all in his head. Because, he was doing crazy shit. He shot the gun, the car blew up. So from the dog point on, I was like, all right, yeah, that was fake. But all the original murders, I felt like he really did those. And after I watched it a second time, I started leaning more towards the entire thing was in his head.
Oh, okay. Interesting. The scene that gave it away to me, that it's all real, including all the crazy shit. Obviously, he sees things like when the ATM machine says, "Feed me the cat." And he tries to fucking shoot the cat in front of it. Like, some of that stuff is in his head, of course, and maybe some of that, maybe the car blowing up might be in there. And at the end, when he's being chased by the police, and then it just cuts to the next day and he's fine, like, maybe some of that stuff was in there. But the thing I got out of it was that the whole world was just as crazy in its own way. And that was the scene where he goes back to Paul Allen's apartment, and he had left the bodies in there, and he was going to go the next day to clean them up, I think. I forgot what it was. And the whole apartment had already been scrubbed, and there was already someone selling it off. And he was like, wait a sec, what's going on? And that's when she was like, don't ever come back here. Almost as if, I know what happened in here, but nothing happened, wink, wink type of thing. They got rid of the bodies. They repainted everything. They sold it, and now they're selling the apartment. Just the way her tone of like, don't ever return. I was like, okay, the whole world is also insane in its own way. They just care about what they care about. Just like at the end when he tells him, oh, that funny voicemail you left me about how you killed Paul Allen. And that was also them going, oh, he's on vacation. They just take it on face value, and they don't really care that he's missing. That's kind of the message I got from it. And he's realizing just how crazy the rest of the world is. in spite of all the shit he did, he's like, oh my God. He's like, I'm not escaping it. And that's kind of why it focuses on that exit sign. But
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes it a good film, right? Because you can talk about it and get these different perspectives, and this comic might even have its own take, and like it says, fresh perspective on his killings. Maybe it will say definitively from their perspective, the comic publisher, the writer, it was all in his head, or it was all real, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's the interesting part about it. But I feel like most people, if they find out about this comic, they're gonna say, well, it wasn't written by the original writer of the book, or it wasn't written by the original screenwriters of the movie. So like, is this this is the true perspective? Like, did he, so it's gonna be that back and forth, but it's again, it's fun to play around with the thought of it. So I like it either way. I like the ending, whether you believe he killed them or not. If you believed he stomped the dog out and blew up the car and somehow magically got away from the police. Like, if you believe all of that and all that shit happened, like, I'm fine with it, because he fucking dropped the goddamn chainsaw down on somebody.
Oh yeah.
That was running through a staircase. So if you're good enough to believe that he really did kill the person like that, then I'm fine with believing that all the other stuff was real.
And as you were saying, at worst, if the comic like, oh, that's bullshit. Okay, well, the comic's not canon then. That's
exactly.
Well, another thing that won't be canon to Godzilla or Justice League or DC is going to be the following, but it's always a fun crossover between DC and Legendary Comics and Toho International, who are doing Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong as a 7-issue event starting in October. So the crossover pits DC superheroes against the iconic monsters, promising an epic battle of massive scale. I've already seen a page of a giant bat mech wrestling with Godzilla, and I'm like, I'm sold. That's all I need.
Yeah, that's fire. That's fire. No, I know most people would probably kind of just see this on the outside looking in and say, well, DC superheroes should clear this in like 5 pages.
Oh, yeah. Like, they fight giant monsters all the time.
Yeah. Like this would be easy pickings. And really the only person that would, that it would take a long time would probably be Batman, because then he has to use like machines in order to fight him for the most part. But like, most people would be like, oh man, Superman just mollywops Godzilla in like 2 hits, and then that's GG. But this is still dope though. This is still dope.
Yeah, and of course it'll have that thing, like you were saying, they're going to struggle against the monsters because Legendary doesn't want their property to be too damaged, and you're not going to have the DC superheroes get too beat up. No one's going to die like that. And then they'll all team up against King Ghidorah in the end. So, because we all know how that's going to go anyway. And I'm okay.
It's weird though, because like, so who's jumping who? Like, is it Godzilla versus Kong, and Justice League is trying to like stop them from destroying the planet or some shit? Or is it like everyone, it's because it's three entities. So who the fuck are they? Like, are they just is Justice League just trying to stop both of them? Is Kong trying to help Godzilla stop the Justice League? It's kind of weird to have three people instead of it just being Justice League versus Godzilla, or like King Kong versus the Justice League. I mean, either one of those fights are kind of, but in my opinion, it should be Godzilla and King Kong versus the Justice League. That's interesting. But if it's 1v1v1, like, I don't know.
They only called it that because of the branding. They needed Godzilla versus Kong, because there's another movie coming out called, what is it? I covered it like half a year ago, but it's called like Godzilla versus Kong 2 or some shit. Like the next one. Like, Godzilla versus Kong, King of the Monsters or some shit. Like, yeah. And I think it's because there is actually, in the teaser, it shows a new Kong. Like, it shows like, oh, here's a more badass member of the Kongs. And like, it's got this, like a red Kong, like, and it just zooms in on his eyes and he's scarred up. And I'm like, shit.
He went Super Saiyan.
Yeah. It's like, I'm guessing that Kong and Godzilla are going to team up against this evil Kong or some shit. I don't know what it's going to be, but yeah, I think that's the only reason they put that fucking title in there, just because they needed that branding. But I'll be picking it up, and there's a Jim Lee variant. I'll check it out and see how it is. It's probably going to be like a $7.99 comic. It's going to be expensive because every one of these companies needs their cut, and people are going to buy it. Honestly, it's just the way these things go. The crossovers are goofy, they're cheesy. Some people turn their nose at it, but they work, they sell. Every time I had these come up, like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers versus Godzilla, I was like, this is amazing. People are going to love it, and they did.
That's more fair. I think that's a fair fight. Or like with Batman, the Batman TMNT shit, that was cool.
That was good. And then they did animated series, Batman animated series Turtles. Like, fuck yeah. Good stuff.
That was cool. But I don't know. This one is kind of weird. It seems more or less to me more about selling, like doing promotion for the movie. But no, I don't want to shit on whoever's writing this and just devalue their work like that. So, we'll see. Let's see.
Nor should you, because it's the same writer as the Fortnite crossover, and that you're all about Fortnite. You should be praising this.
No, they ain't put Godzilla and King Kong in Fortnite. So,
well, this might confirm it right there, right? Well, the DC is bringing back another classic. We're talking about the animated series, and Batman: Mask of the Phantasm is releasing in 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray after its debut 30 years later. So the animated movie follows Bruce Wayne as he faces a masked vigilante, the Phantasm, and it reunites him with his former lover, Andrea Belmont. It is praised as one of the best Batman movies in spite of its initial box office underperformance. It's available on September 12th with special tributes for the late Kevin Conroy and extra special features. So this is one that people ask me, like, what's your favorite Batman movie? Mask of the Phantasm. No, it had to have come out in theaters. Mask of the Phantasm. Like, it was out for like a month and it underperformed, but it's since gained a strong following with Batman fans. It's resold constantly over and over again. Like, now it's out on DVD. Now here's the special edition. Here it is on Blu-ray in HD for the first time ever. And now 4K. I supported it, man. I pre-ordered mine.
Nice. Dan, I'm sorry, bro. I know I've watched this. I know I've seen this, but I do not remember this shit at all.
How long ago was that?
Like, I felt like this was on, they put this on like TV, right? Like on Cartoon Network. Like they showed it on TV. Yeah. So I know I've watched it
on Fox. Yeah.
I do not remember anything about this, dude. Just nothing. Like, I'm reading the description, and I know you always used to bring it up. And I'll just be like, man, I know I watched that. I know I've watched it, but I just can't remember it.
I don't know if you still have Max, but it is on there. Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, okay.
It's good stuff, man. It really is. And considering that it was going to be the end of the animated series when they released it, they're like, this is how we're going to end the series. And it's going to be a TV movie. Well, at the very last minute, Warner Brothers decided, well, we're going to have a theatrical release for this. And Bruce Timm got pissed off. And he was like, we would have done this whole thing differently if we knew it was going to be in theaters. Yeah. So then they had to reformat the whole movie in widescreen, and they didn't draw it for widescreen. They drew it for basic TV, 4:3. So they had to go back and redo a bunch of stuff and just basically crop it, and that's the film we got today. And Bruce Timm's always like, yeah, that's one of my regrets, because I know this movie could have been so much better if we knew from the beginning it was going to be in theaters. And I'm sitting here like, I'm happy with what we got, because it's a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah, all those Bruce Timm cartoons were good. Like, I enjoyed the fuck out of the animated series and Justice League animated series. So I just don't know why I don't remember anything about this movie. So I need to check it out, whether I catch it on HBO Max or if I rent it on like Apple TV or something.
Yeah, if you do check it out, the sequel, well, I guess the second film they did was a Mr. Freeze one. That one's pretty solid too, but then stop there because they did like a Mystery.
I remember that.
You remember that one?
Yeah. I know for a fact I remember some parts of that for sure.
You didn't see the Batwoman one, right?
The Batwoman one?
Mystery of the Batwoman. It came out like straight to DVD.
That doesn't ring a bell.
All right. Well, that's good because it's the worst of the bit. Well, we got one final news story this week as Hollywood Studios' ongoing strikes with writers and actors unions. they're causing delays in film production and affecting marketing efforts. So this is something we know already, right? It's changing the landscape and it's going to affect these projects for months, maybe years to come. But already filmed movies like Dune Part 2 and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, Warner Brothers Discovery is considering postponing the release of these major projects due to the strike impacting the promotional activities for the film. So I know a lot of these actors, as part of the union, they cannot do like even conventions. There's a convention coming up at the end of this month called Terrificon, and a bunch of the Star Trek actors cannot host a panel because they're a part of the strike. So they're like, we can show up and we can do photo ops, but we can't do panels because that's promoting the show that we're striking against, right? So that's one of the things that, because of that, now they won't go on tour. If there's a Dune Part 2, a bunch of these actors won't be out there during these premieres. So they're considering, like, let's just push these back. I think it's an excuse. I think they're broke, but but we might see that delay.
I don't know if this definitely would hurt. I don't know if the promotion, having the actors out there going to the late night TV talk shows and doing interviews with Access Hollywood, I don't know if that's gonna help sell tickets and put butts in seats. But I do know for a fact that pushing these fucking things back another 6 months to a year, like at this point, Aquaman came out in 2018?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the sequel at this point is gonna 2024. Come on, man, that's insane. That's fucking insane.
And like, it's already gone through reshoots, so it's an expensive film.
Yeah, this thing has been on the fucking burner forever, and they're cooking this shit, and it's gonna be overdone.
Yeah,
like they're just gonna you can't keep pushing this movie back. You kind of just have to roll with it. I don't think that having them go up on late night TV is really. I know that's technically, I guess, free promotion. Do they pay for that? When
I'm sure they do.
Actors,
yeah.
Oh,
I doubt these actors
just throw more commercials. Put up some billboards or something. I don't know. You can't just say, oh, well, because Jason Momoa didn't go on fucking Conan, that's the reason why the movie didn't do well. Like, come on, man. Honestly, it doesn't even matter if he's promoting it or not. It's gonna fucking flop. It's not gonna make $1 billion. So that's already a L. Like, right? Your sequel is supposed to make more money than the original. So if we already know the sequel's not hitting $1 billion. So that's dead in the water. So now it needs to at least get to like 500, 600, 700 mil to even be considered a success. That shit is not hitting that, man. It's not. People don't care about Aquaman no more. They took too long.
Yeah, I think it's a guaranteed flop, just like Blue Beetle. The surprise was fucking Barbie. Like, maybe the success of that, it's already apparently hit $500 million, which I was like, I couldn't believe that shit, man. I could not believe. I thought for sure they had another flop on their hands. And
I didn't think it was going to be a flop, but I didn't think it was going to do as well as it did. I didn't think it was going to have that much hype and interest in it to make fucking like 150 mil on the first week domestic. Like, that's insane for a Barbie movie. Like, kids don't even fucking play with Barbies. So the fact that it blew up like that, like, that's crazy. So that might afford them a couple more L's.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, okay, so because everyone's like, people came after me on Twitter because when the thing came up, like, it has a Snyder joke in there. I don't know if you saw the Snyder joke on Twitter, but it's already leaked. And I guess at some point in the movie, one of the Barbies gets sucked into an all male toxic masculinity area of the universe or whatever. And she comes out of it, and one of the things she says, she's like, oh yeah, there was this, and this. And for some reason, I just had this obsession with Zack Snyder's cut of the Justice League. And like, that's the joke. Like, it's like, all right. And, the whole thing, it was like a lot of fake outrage from the movement. Like, oh yeah, Warner Brothers, you're poking fun at your money again, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, boycott Barbie. In reality, we had planned to like do, I don't think it's happening because you can't really, I don't think you can make a design out of it, but we were going to do another charity design and put it up on Ink to the People based on what the joke was, But now it's like, okay, it's such a bad joke that, what can you even do with this? Like, we roast ourselves better than that fucking shit.
Yeah.
So, but in spite of that, like, I've gotten some flack, like, oh yeah, look how much money it's made. And it's like, all right, well, at best, as you were saying, this has paid for The Flash a little bit, and it has paid for Blind Adam a little bit. Like, literally, it just erased maybe 2 movies. This is not still a good thing for them.
It ain't making up that Blue Beetle money.
No.
That's a fact. That's a fact. They could have easily did the write down like they did with fucking Batgirl, Batwoman. They should have wrote this one down because
Blue Beetle,
gone. Yeah, Blue Beetle's gonna be DOA.
Yeah, same with Aquaman too. I mean, Barbie's not going to make enough to make up for these 4 films. I don't know. Now they're already talking about sequels, and it's like good for them. Maybe those will do well for them if people come out again. I know other companies are now looking at their IPs. I don't know if you saw, like, Paramount Animation. After the Barbie success, today they announced that they are canceling all original animated projects, and they're going to focus on IPs they own instead. So everyone after Mario and after Barbie are now digging into their toy box and going, okay, who do we own the rights to that we can bring out? Like, who's got G.I. Joe,
But they already did those.
Yeah, they did. And they're going to do a crossover with Transformers next. But, let's say, I'm trying to think of, like, who owns the Dragon Ball franchise? Like, just try it again. That kind of fucking shit.
Yeah. Just kick the tires on some old shit.
That's what's going to happen now. We're going to see that.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, everyone. That's this week's news. And let's head into the final portion of today's show, the Brokehead Block, what Macio and I have been up to since you last heard us. So, Macio, let's kick it off with you. What have you been doing this week, or since you were last on? What have you been playing, reading, or watching? What's been making you broke?
I haven't really been playing much. I've been playing Fortnite. I can't think of any other games I've been playing. Yeah, no, I was just mostly playing Fortnite, kind of just biding my time, waiting until September rolls around so I could play some Starfield. I started watching Jack Ryan because I forgot that I was on my wife's Amazon. Not my wife's, my sister's Amazon Prime. So me and my wife, we were watching that Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan show, which is okay. It's all right. It's not 24, but it's not terrible. So I've been watching that and, just going to work, riding my bike. Yeah, it's been pretty chill. These last months has been pretty chill. Watch some UFC, watch some pretty good fights. We got a couple fights coming up that's supposed to be really good. So yeah, just been maxing and relaxing for the most part.
Yeah, that last card was crazy, man. Like, those fights were good.
Yeah, just elbows everywhere.
Yeah.
Elbows in every single fight. Just crazy. And hopefully this one on Saturday lives up to the hype. But, there's no titles on the line. No real titles.
What are you talking about? The baddest motherfucker in the world. If anything, that's a true title.
But it's crazy how the baddest motherfucker on the planet, that title just somehow keeps shifting weight classes. Isn't that crazy? Sometimes they're lightweights, sometimes they're heavyweights, sometimes they're welterweights.
That's how hard it is to get that belt, because there's no limits on that belt. You just got to be the baddest motherfucker, not the baddest motherfucker in light flyweight. No, it's just period. The baddest.
Yeah. And the crazy shit is that because they don't want to do any of these cards where there's no title fights anymore. Like, they're making a lot of probably up until like last year, you would see that a title fight, like whoever's holding the title, they would fight maybe once a year, and that was best case scenario. And now they have these guys fighting twice a year. Like the last fight we were watching, and Volk said, "Oh, I'm gonna get my shoulder fixed, and I'll be back at the end of the year."
Oh yeah,
that's not by choice. We were like, "Oh damn, Volk is a fucking warrior." Hell no. Dana said, "No, you will fight twice a year. And 3 times if you can. If I can fit it in the schedule, you'll fight 3 times a year." It's like, damn, dude, they don't even get a chance to fucking rest. So I feel like we're going to see a lot more titles getting swapped around because they're not going to have the time to recuperate.
Yeah, I think you're right. And we're going to start seeing a lot of those. unfortunately, they're the ones who are going to pay for it, right? The fighters. You can see some permanent injuries out of that.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, like you were saying, there's some really good fucking fights happening, and I'm sure this Saturday we'll hopefully at least get one. You know, whenever it's like, oh, fight of the night, great, and then if we get like two, I'm like, all right, it was a good card. But man, they're not always like last time. Like, holy shit, like struggling to find which one was the fight of the night.
Yeah, that was a very good card. Hopefully, Dustin can kick something up on Saturday. And if at worst, the next fight after Saturday's one, we got Sugar Sean, my boy Sugar Sean.
Yep. Awesome, man. Looking forward to it. On my end, I did end up watching Oppenheimer. It's the reason I haven't watched Mission Impossible, because I'm like, oh shit, I still got to finish the last one. And I'm like, oh, here's Oppenheimer. And unfortunately, I couldn't go with Kelly. It's just with the kids. There's no... I mean, to set aside, with babysitting 3+ hours to get someone, the movie itself was like almost exactly 3 hours. It was like 3 hours and 2 minutes or something. But even still, it's a Nolan film. It was, just brief, spoiler-free thoughts, filmed really well, lit up really well, sound design, pretty strong. There's some scenes there where I was struggling to hear the actors a little bit, but that's something that I've noticed with Nolan films, like especially like the Batman films. The sound mixing is a little iffy sometimes, but
I did read online that if you watched it in a theater that had IMAX and Dolby sound, I guess when they did the sound, they assumed that you're going to watch it in like Dolby, whatever the Dolby soundscape is, and people who watched it in that format had a lot easier time hearing versus people who just watched it either in the regular theater format or in the IMAX format. Dude, I went through a whole deep dive on this IMAX shit, and apparently not many theaters can even play Oppenheimer in the correct way in IMAX.
Oh, really? The 7mm thing?
Yeah, because they might be playing it in IMAX, but they're playing it in the digital format, not the actual physical film format, which then also doesn't fill the screen all the way. So you're still missing portions of the screen, and it's not as crisp of a picture with slightly washed out colors compared to the film, like true version. And then if you don't have the IMAX theater with the Dolby soundscape, then you're even losing out on the sound. So that whole shit, there's only like 10 theaters in America that actually have everything.
I wonder if one of them was that one that Zach had his film at, the one at Universal Studios in California. I'd have to look that up.
Yeah, that one is one of them. I know I read online that the one that we have in Orlando and the like tourist area, the Point Orlando one. Yeah. Apparently their screen was like torn.
Oh, so, shit.
Yeah. And it's been like that for months. Like they haven't paid to fix their stuff, and they used to have the film and they swapped it out for the digital because digital is cheaper. So but people don't really ever go to that movie theater. So I'm not surprised that they made whatever changes they needed to make in order to, save money.
Well, yeah, I'm glad I didn't, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, that's going to be the place I go to watch these IMAX things. And I'm glad I didn't go that way, because I didn't know that. And I probably wouldn't have noticed the difference, but now knowing it, like if I ever watch a movie there, I'll be like, man, it's not true IMAX.
Yeah. There was a whole thread of people that were saying that they were going to go to, I think there's like a science center or something like that in Miami that has like the true everything, like Dolby, the surround sound, the film IMAX, and they were playing Oppenheimer. But I don't know if it was like a true theater. So they probably only had it for like that weekend or something.
Gotcha. Well, regardless, I was going to say, I wonder if it'll be different when it comes out on home video, but it's not one that I'm looking to buy right away. It does very well acted. Like the acting was incredibly strong, but I know that this would be a movie that I think you would be like, oh man, like it's running a little long, because at one point even I was thinking it got to what would be like the height of the film, right? What I thought was the third act. And then it continues like, oh, and now we got to tell the part of Oppenheimer's history on why during the Red Scare, like they thought he was a communist. So now we got to show those trials. So it's like, wait a second. So it kind of tells this other part of the story. It feels like a biopic less than like a movie. It feels like, okay, now we got to tell this part of his life. And I'm like, all right. So that's the one thing that I was like, criticizing, I guess, of. And, they have like the sort of formulaic, like, oh, and the bad guy gets his comeuppance type of thing that would make the general audience like, yeah, that kind of part. But, little things like that it didn't feel quite like a Nolan film in those ways. But I still really enjoyed it. And we'll probably get an Oscar nom out of Robert Downey Jr. because he played a good role in that one himself, and Cillian Murphy too.
Sounds good, man. I definitely wanted to check it out, just not in theaters. Because again, as you said, that 3-hour runtime is pretty long. But also on top of that, there's so many movies that I do want to watch or I have like slight limited interest in. And I was just like, man, Oppenheimer, I felt like I could wait to see that. And it wasn't like something I had to go out and watch at that time, especially because I wasn't going to watch it in IMAX.
Yeah, and it's been promoted as like a must-see IMAX experience type of thing. Like Nolan there with the big fucking reel.
Yeah.
That weighs like 600 pounds or whatever they said. Yeah, good stuff. Well, awesome, Macio. We had a lot of gaming news this week especially, and I do want to thank you for helping me out with it this week, and please let them know where they can find you.
You can see me on the Discord, Mac the Murderer. You can come tag me. Let me know about what you're playing. If you want to play some Fortnite or something, hit me up.
And definitely let us know what you thought of like the American Psycho thing. Like, what's your theory on that ending or that film through that Discord that Macio was talking about? You can definitely contact him on there, as well as most of the hosts are in our Discord. And this week, if you want to submit any cards for grading, especially if you're a UK broquette, head on over to treefroggrading.com. And you can submit Yu-Gi-Oh! Sports cards, Pokemon, and they have that new labeling with Tree Frog's logo on it. And that's, again, UK-based, military-owned, veteran-owned. Use the coupon code BROKE for 5% off. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us this week. I've been Daniel, joined by Macio, and Broquette Core. All will be well. So I do have to ask, did you end up retweeting Xbox to get those TMNT pizza-smelling special edition controllers that they are not selling, that you could only win through retweets?
Well, I don't have Twitter, so that's going to be a no. But if
shit.
I did, I probably wouldn't have, because it'll smell like pizza for how long? And then I can't imagine that either the smell just goes away and you don't smell anything. I feel like it'll have some weird funky odor after a while. So cool. And what pizza smell? Whose pizza? Because not all pizzas smells good. No, I don't know. I'm cool. I don't know what they consider pizza in Seattle up at Bellevue at the Microsoft offices. I'm cool.